What's going on, folks? This is Swap, and today we're going to be talking about the Black starter deck. This is the Marine starter deck for the One Piece card game. We have all the cards fully revealed, so we're going to be taking a look at what this deck looks like. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, let's go ahead and start things off with the leader card as always. So this is the Black Navy starter deck leader card. This is Akainu, aka Sakazuki. He has 5,000 power, so pretty standard for any leader. Once per turn, you get to rest 3 Dawn. You may trash 1 card from your hand and KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So we know that the black cards in particular have a theme where they get to manipulate the character's cost, and by manipulating that cost, you get to do some destruction on those character cards. But off the bat, it's kind of like a really high cost. You have to rest 3 Dawn, and then you have to trash 1 card from your hand in order to KO a character that costs 0. And there's going to be a lot of things to bring down that cost, but it's going to be a lot of investment just to KO something for this particular leader event. Alright, let's go ahead and just move on with the vanilla. So let's get the vanillas out of the way. So we have Django, our 1 cost 3,000 vanilla. We also have Full Body, our 2 cost for 4,000. T-Bone, T-Bone's a fun one, 3 cost for 5,000. And last but not least, we have Momonga. So Momonga is our 4 cost for 6,000 vanilla. So these vanillas are pretty standard for the starter deck so far. But things get interesting when you start adding the other cards. So now we have Kobe. So Kobe is a pretty interesting card himself. He is a 1 cost for 2,000 power, counter plus 1,000. So it's good to see a counter on him. On play, you can trash 1 card from your hand and KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So this is basically like your leader ability, but on a character card. And so you have to play this character card, trash a card. You don't have to rest any Dawn. So essentially you're playing 2 cards to trash 1 character that costs 0 versus your leader ability, which is rest 3 Dawn and trash 1. So I guess it's kind of balanced there because this is a very weak body, but it is a pretty interesting event. So we'll see what other characters and what other abilities there are when it comes to manipulating these abilities, and that is Helmeppo. So Helmeppo is a pretty fun one too. Helmeppo is a 2 cost for 3,000 power with a counter of plus 1,000. You get to on play give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 to their cost during this turn. So really powerful effect there, being able to bring down the cost to 3 just by playing a 2 cost body. He is only 3,000 power, so he's probably not going to do much in terms of attacking unless you invest some Dawn into him, but he does have that plus 1,000 counter, so it's still pretty good there. So this next one is a pretty simple staple in any of these starter decks, and that's going to be a cheap blocker, and the cheap blocker in this deck is going to be Tsuru. So Tsuru is our 2 cost for 2,000 power. She's a blocker. She has plus 1,000 counter, so pretty standard stuff there. A nice cheap little blocker. Next up we have Hina. So this is where things start getting interesting. Hina is a 3 cost for 5,000. So those are vanilla stats, but she does have an effect, so that's why she doesn't have a counter on her. On play, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 to their cost during this turn. So she's going to be able to combo pretty well with the leader ability when bringing down a 4 cost down to 0. But again, you're on playing her for 3, and then you have to use Akainu's leader ability, which is rest 3 Dawn. So if you're going to be comboing that, you need to have at least 6 Dawn on the field, and then being able to use that combo ability. Another staple when it comes to starter decks is giving yourself a plus 2,000 counter, and that's what we got here with Tashigi. So Tashigi, nice little artwork here for Tashigi as well. 3 cost for 4,000. The stats aren't that great, but plus 2,000 counter, that is what we want to see. We want to see some plus 2,000 counters in our decks. Main event, you may rest this character and then give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 to their cost during this turn. So this is pretty interesting because you can set her up a turn ahead of time, so you don't have to invest 3 Dawn and then do another 3 Dawn with your leader ability. You can just put her on the field and set her up for the next turn to do some more combo abilities in that way. But if you don't want to do that, she is still a plus 2,000 counter, which is pretty amazing to see. Now we're moving on to the big hitters, and that is Sengoku. Sengoku is a 5 cost for 6,000 power with plus 1,000 counter. When attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 to their cost during this turn. So this is really good because he has some decent stats, 5 for 6,000. It's a lot easier to defend a 6,000 power character, and he's going to be able to threaten the enemy leader pretty well. And being all that, and then when he's attacking, giving -4 cost. So it's going to be able to combo a lot of abilities, especially with the next card that we're going to see here, and that is Garp. So Garp is an amazing 5 cost for 6,000 power, no counter, but he has a pretty cracked out ability. On your main phase, you can activate it. You may trash up to 1 card from your hand and rest this character. Then you get to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So now you're bringing the bar much higher than just 0 cost characters. Now you can destroy people that have a cost of 4 or less. So now you can imagine if you have those 8 cost kids and then you attack with Sengoku, bring that kid down to a 4 cost, and then KO it with Garp. That's a pretty awesome thing to do. So Garp is going to be really, really essential, I think, to the black theme and all these black cards and navy cards. Him being a 5 cost for 6,000 does make him a little bit easier to defend when it comes to countering attacks against him, because you do have to rest Garp in order to use his ability, and you do have to trash a card in your hand, but it could be very well worth it if you're discarding or you're trashing a 4 cost or less character, and let's say it's like a 6 cost or more and you brought it down to 4 cost. It's even way worth it then. But yeah, Monkey D. Garp, really powerful ability. Alright, so this next card is what I arguably believe is to be the strongest card within this whole starter deck, and that is Smoker. Smoker is a 5 cost for 7,000 power. Those are vanilla stats, and I don't think we've ever seen a 5 cost with 7,000 power stat card in a starter deck. And not only are they vanilla stats, but he has an ability, he has a static ability that says this character cannot be KO'd by card effects. So he can be lowered by maybe an Otama, but he can't be Otama Pistol because he can't be KO'd by Jet Pistol. He can still be bounced to your hand. So maybe if you're playing against a mono blue character and they have some things that can bounce him back to your hand, that is still applicable. But anything that can KO him, and it won't work on him. So Brachio Bomber, anything that combos into Jet Pistol, basically anything that would destroy him, it's not going to work on him. And he's a 5 cost for 7,000 power. Taking out a 7,000 power without being able to KO him in any other way other than through a battle is extremely hard and difficult. 7,000 powers is crazy. And not only that, he also has another ability. If he has 1 Dawn attached to him, as long as there is a character that costs 0 in play, this character gains double attack. So you don't even need to KO a character. You can bring a low support character like Perona or Nami or Bonnie, and they might be just standing there active, not doing anything, and you just bring them down to 0 cost with like 1 simple card effect, 1 cheap card, and all of a sudden Smoker has double attack and he has 7,000 base power. That is insane. Double attack can easily wipe out the game in your favor. Alright, that's it for the character cards. Let's go ahead and see what these events are all about. So the first event we have is Impact Wave. Impact Wave is nuts. Your leader or up to one of your characters gains plus 4,000 power during this turn. So pretty standard effect, plus 4,000 and a counter for a 2 cost event. That's pretty standard. The next thing, however, is then you get to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 3 or less. We have seen KO effects like Red Hawk, but Red Hawk needs a 4,000 power or less, and you can kind of play around it. In this case, you can't really play around your character cost when you're on the offensive, and so you can easily defend yourself by 1 attack and then use this to KO a really strong 3 cost character like Okiku, Zoro, Sentomaru. The list just goes on and on. So this card in particular, really strong effect, and it's going to be stronger as more 3 cost characters start appearing, and it's going to be really awesome. Alright, next up we have Great Eruption. Great Eruption is a pretty standard one for the black cards. 1 cost, you get to draw 1 card, then give up to one of your opponent characters -2 to their cost during this turn. So not too bad. It's a cheap little way to combo a -2 cost, and it recycles itself by letting you draw a card. Now the trigger effect is your opponent trashes 1 card from their hand, so it's a pretty nice surprising trigger. It could really off balance your opponent, especially if they have the right cards that they want to keep in their hand, and it makes them have some tough decisions that they have to make. So pretty good card all around here. Next up we have Whiteout. So Whiteout is a 1 cost counter event. Your leader or up to one of your characters gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. So pretty standard, 1 cost for plus 2,000, nothing crazy there. However, it does have a crazy trigger. You get to draw a card. Anytime you get to draw a card for free like that, always amazing to see. then your your characters cannot be KO'd during this turn. So this one's kind of an odd one for me because even though on paper it sounds really amazing, I think this second part of the trigger probably won't be applicable as people might expect, because normally a lot of people, whenever you're going for your opponent's leader, chances are you're going to go for their leader, and then you're probably already just ignoring those characters anyways. And so if your opponent is attacking your leader, they're probably not attacking your characters, and then you draw this in the trigger, they're like, okay, you get to draw a card, I'm going to keep attacking your leader. That's kind of how I see this card. So I think that second sentence, even though it looks good on paper, I don't think it's going to be as applicable. And last but not least, we finally have a new stage card. The stage card is Marineford, a 1-cost stage card. On play, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 to their cost during this turn. Okay, pretty standard with the theme that we got going on. Activate main, you get to rest this stage. If your leader has the Navy type, which he is, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 to their cost during this turn. So you get to repeat this ability. And the interesting part about stages is that you get to replace them and use their ability again. So let's say you already had a Marineford in play from your previous turn, and then your next coming turn, you can then rest that Marineford to give -1. Pay 1 Dawn to play this new Marineford on play. That's another -1, so that's -2 in total. Then you get to rest this one again, and then that's -3. So you can do -3 cost for just 1 Dawn investment, assuming you had that previous Marineford in place. So whether or not this is going to be our big staple for black decks is really going to depend on whether or not we get a lot more black cards in the set 2 that trigger or complements or have synergy with characters having a certain cost. And what I mean by that is, let's assume that maybe not everything is just pure destruction. Maybe you get to draw a card if one of your opponent's characters is like a 1 cost or less, or a 0 cost or less. Something like that may be more applicable when we see effects like that. So if we see more effects like that in set 2, then I can see Marineford being a pretty big staple. I don't know if I would include 4 copies of Marineford right off the bat, but again, we're going to see how that plays out later in the future. That's going to do it for today, folks. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think about the Black Navy starter deck. And if you like this video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.